Tate is an 11-year-old powerlifter who currently holds 8 American powerlifting records. Recently, he came to me with severe right hip pain that came out when deadlifting that he had been dealing with for many months. Today, you're going to see our full evaluation and treatment across 2 days and how it led him to be pain-free and lift at his meet a few weeks later. Now, a proper evaluation starts by first analyzing movement. So to start our day, I watched him lift a moderate weight to see how and when his pain came out.
Okay, and relax. Any pain, 0 to 10. 6 out of 10 pain. Okay, face that way. Can you point to me exactly where you're feeling it? So it's like up high in the muscle. Okay, that's good to know. We're going to come back to that later today, and we're going to see if we can get it pain-free.
His pain, however, did not occur when squatting, though you can see a pretty significant shift to the left on the descent and ascent. Next, it was time to assess his mobility. We started at the ankles. You can see he had pretty symmetrical mobility on both sides. Hip internal rotation was also fairly symmetrical as well. However, when we checked his Faber test, you can see a clear side-to-side difference. His right painful side wouldn't drop down as much as his left. Then it was on to testing strength and stability. When doing a single leg bridge on each side, he noted it felt pretty easy on his left, but felt shaking and painful on the right side with 5 out of 10 pain. I then tested his lateral hip strength.
Hold. Good. Okay, flip over on your other side. Okay, hold it. Don't let it push down. Hold it. Does it feel a little bit weaker on that side? Yeah. Those muscles need to be working a little bit harder, huh? So far, we've got a couple different things going on. Whenever I was watching him do his deadlift, the first thing I see is that knee's collapsed in on that right side compared to the other side. And then as soon as he lifts, he shifts towards the left side, right? Now, the more weight he had, the more it shifted. And the more that knee wanted to duck in. On the squat, it's not painful, but he shifts over towards that left side, exactly. Now, the right hip on our testing was a little bit more stiff, falling out to the side. That's called the Faber test, and the goal with that is to look at external rotation and extension. We also saw that a single leg bridge brought out pain. What I want to test next is we're going to look at his mobility and see if we can improve that Faber test and what it does to that single leg bridge, if that helps it at all. So often what we find is that there's sometimes, if the joint mechanics aren't operating correctly, it limits the way that the muscles are operating and what if the glutes are overpowering well enough. And then the hamstrings sort of get called in to do double time. Then they sort of become injured. Sometimes that's an easy way for them to develop more so like a tendinopathy. It's because it's an overuse kind of thing. They're just being called on to do too much. So first and foremost, we got to look at the mobility. Once the mobility is there, sometimes the body just starts working well already by itself. Sometimes it needs a little bit of help with just a little bit of strength and stability work after, and then we put it all together with the technique work at the end. So what we're going to do first is a mobility drill. Sound good?
Now that we uncovered his mobility issues, it was now time to test and retest.
What you're going to do is open your hip. Good. Push your hips forward. Keep your chest tall, and then shift knee over your toe. Okay, does that bring out a good stretch in your groin? Good. I want you to hold that for 5 seconds, and then shift back. So the big cues when you come back are squeeze your butt muscle to open your hips. Keep your hips forward though. The weight's there to help keep your chest up. Okay, it's called the kettlebell weight shift. Shift into it. Good stretch in the groin. Don't go too far. Okay, I don't want you to hinge your butt back when you do this. 5-second hold, and then back. So if you're like really high like this, that's exactly what I want. Just make sure as you go, it's okay if you only go a little bit. I don't want you to go too far and hinge your hips back. Okay, but always hips open, chest tall, hips forward, shift into the stretch. Very good. Good stretch with that one. Good. We're going to do 6 of these for 5-second hold. And then we're going to go back over there and test, okay? Okay.
We immediately retested, and you can see a big difference in hip mobility compared with before. We then immediately did a single leg bridge again, and he noted less pain compared to prior. I had him next do 10 bridges with a 10-second hold, which were a little fatiguing for him at first. Now listen into some of my cues I gave him for this.
You a little tired already?
Get my drink.
Oh, man. That's only 3 reps. You can't be that tired already. I know 10 reps for a powerlifter is a lot, right? That's cardio, right? We got to go through the full set before you get that drink. Okay? Make sure those toes are straight. But here's the deal. Whenever we cue the toes, we turn on the quads slightly. Now, the body has an interesting process about it called reciprocal inhibition. And basically what that means is that in order to do a motion, you can't have opposing muscles doing the exact same activation pattern. So if doing a bridge, our goal is hip extension. And then the knees are extending a little bit as well. By pushing through the toes and then picking the hips up, you're activating the quads slightly. Now the body goes, well, if the quads are activating, I can't have the hamstrings activate just as hard or else no motion happens. So we turn the hamstrings off slightly. The only thing left to pick the hips up, largely, is the butt, which is why his glutes are going to be very, very tired. So it's just a slight different cue to just make sure that we're getting the glutes to be dominant in this motion.
After we got off the table and did some single leg touchdown squats off a 4-inch box to work on his coordination and balance. They were a little tough on his left, but very tough on his right. You can see he didn't want to use his hips at all. To help him, I cued him to do a more dynamic hinge, which allowed him to really feel his glutes working and move without any pain. At this time, we moved to reintegrate the newly found mobility and stability into his problem lifts.
So down in position, open your hips, okay? Tight, 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 tight. And then relax. Different? How'd you felt them working? Okay. Now what we're gonna do is that same exact thing, except you can pull the bar from the ground. Okay, now here's the deal. You have to hold it tight and get those muscles turned on for 2 seconds and then go. Okay, so it's all about getting really tight at the start in a good position and then we pull. Okay, don't go too fast. Listen to my cues. Okay, look forward, big breath, tight. 1, 2, pull. Slow back down. Okay, how'd that feel? Felt okay? So remember our cues. Open that hip, so remember, set your feet. Get down in that bottom position. Okay, nice and strong. Open that right hip. Okay, back down. Okay, how'd that feel? No pain.
No pain.
That hurt 6 out of 10 pain 45 minutes ago, right? I think, sternum up. Okay, you know who Ed Cohen is? There you go, that's one of his cues. Okay, sternum up. Okay, drive hard with those feet. Okay, let's try that. Yes, just like that. Okay, get your feet, okay? Open that hip, get this muscle turned on, nice and strong. Sternum up. Strong. Good. Back down. How'd that feel? 0 out of 10 pain. There we go, my man.
The next day, we went through many of the same drills and then added in 2 new exercise variations called RNT for both the squat and deadlift, as you'll see. Remember, his squat looked like this the very first day.
So when I pull you, right, it's trying to put all your weight into this side. I want you to feel like you're right in the center, okay? So I'm going to try to pull you over to this side.
Oh, that's better.
There you go. Okay, I want 10 reps.
Since then, that's why it's different now.
Okay, stay balanced. As much weight into your right side as your left side. Go slow, go slow.
Yep. Slow and controlled.
Wants to give them one ball.
There you go.
Good. Slow, slow, slow. Back up nice and slow, okay? Stay balanced even on the way up, okay? Slow. There you go. This is called RNT, or reactive neuromuscular training. And the idea behind it is that with a band or any type of other implement, we're pushing or pulling the person into the problematic movement. So if they have knee cave, we pull into more knee cave. If they have a hip shift, we pull into more hip shift. And the idea isn't to necessarily cue them, push into the right, push into the right, push into the right, but we let their brain feel the problem actually occurring. Because remember yesterday, when I said, hey, do you feel that shift? He couldn't feel it. His brain was not actually aware of the problem occurring. So with RNT, we actually sort of teach the brain by feeding the dysfunction, some people call it that. Basically, we pull you into more of the problematic movement so that your body actually clicks it feels it, and then in real time it can react and stay in that more optimal aligned movement. So it's a way of teaching the body without actually having to give verbal cues or tactile cues. You're giving more of that brain-body connection cue in the person's ability themselves.
You know, now that you say that, one thing, she caught it. She's like, he's doing something funny with his squat. She's doing something funny with his squat. And then about 2.5 months later, the pain started.
Yep. So the idea behind the movement impairment syndrome, sort of our way that physical therapists look at the body, is that the problematic movement is there ever before the pain starts. It's sometimes small, but it's chipping away, like picking at a scab. And then eventually, the pain hits. But often the problem is there far before the symptoms start. And it's just the more you push into that problem, depending on where your capacity's at, the quicker you can get to the tipping point of injury. And everyone's going to be a little bit different. If you had 5 kids his age, all showing the same problem movement, they may reach that pain at totally different levels based on how long they've been training, how strong they are, the exposure, how often it occurs. Are they training 5 days a week like that or just 1 day a week? So everyone's a little bit different, but the mechanism remains the same. And that's why it's so important to see the movement problems and address them before they start. Not because, yes, you're 100% going to get injured, but if there's an increased risk, let's see if we can improve it. And in fixing it, especially with a powerlifter, now you're becoming a little bit more symmetrical with your movements. You have a greater ability to produce better performance. Because if you look at it as a lifter that's shifting or knee caving in, that's less vertical force. Makes sense. All right, my man, you ready for this next set? Okay, get your steps back. All right, now I'm gonna start pulling. Okay, 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Slow back up. Okay, now remember, what's your cues? Stay balanced. Okay, right and left foot has equal pressure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What'd you eat for breakfast this morning?
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A for breakfast? Man, you didn't bring me any? Oh my gosh, did you get the little nuggets that have the honey on top? Oh, those are the best, those are good.
I got the chicken biscuit with hash browns.
Man, you're all fueled up for some big lifts today then, huh? So we can do like 4 or 5 sets of these then, right? All right, that's what I like to hear. Slow down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Slow balanced descent, don't get pulled over.
That was so much better.
Good. Okay, get into position. Nice and slow off the start. Stay balanced. 2, 3, 4, 5. Back down. Rest for a second. Good. Okay, now, off the start, once you got tired, you know what happened? Your butt shot up in the air. That means you're pulling with all your back. Okay, I want your hips and chest to come together. Does that make sense? So when you're down here and you're lifting, when you get tired, think here, hips and chest together. Get that sternum right here, pull that up, okay? I don't want this, then it's all back. That makes it much harder to complete the rest of the lift. Okay, don't let me pull you over. Nice and balanced start. 2, 3, 4, 5. Different?
Yeah, that was the best one.
That was the best one?
Least amount of shift yet.
Okay, good. How'd it feel? Feel good? All right, take a little rest break. Yeah, no pain? Very good. We're gonna put just a little bit more weight on for the next one.
I think I read on that paper that.
Good job. That's it. How'd you feel? No pain? Good job. There we go, man. That's pretty good for right there. I don't want to push it too much, okay? Because what we don't want to do is we still got a little bit of work to do with the balanced approach. And we want to be able to slowly go up. So yesterday, the goal with being able to go back to something that was painful was to see if whether or not the coordination and strength work that we did with the glutes and the hip joint would allow him to be pain-free. Now we just slowly build back with the coordination work with the RNT. So that'll take time. It's something that's going to be slow go. usually the first time you do it, it's not going to just like automatically stick with all the heavier weights. So that'll be something that over the next couple weeks will be really helpful to work with the coach and instill. And eventually, once you see him not shifting anymore, you don't need to do it. But I think the big thing is that we could tell today that the different exercises that we did with this pull could work. And it can actually feel like we're symmetrical and not hurting at all.
Tate kept up this approach at home with his parents and coach, and a few weeks later he lifted at his powerlifting meet without any pain at all, showing the power of a proper evaluation, rehab plan, and hard work. Here he is at the very end with his coach. Great work, Tate.
They say that energy flows where attention goes, so I pay no mind. Why waste my time with all these negative cats scratching so caught up in their egos? These people have lost